have a vloggy style video for you today so that you don't screw up your home theater sound enjoyment the way that I did. And what I'm going to talk about has to do with recessed light trim. So my theater room, as was originally built into our household, has 9 recessed light cans. They're all pre-finished installs because we did build the house from scratch. We set up the room originally as a home gym, never used it for that, turned it into the home theater. But in general, we did a lot of recessed lighting around our household. And so the way it works is there's a metal can light assembly that goes up into the ceiling before the drywall. They come and drywall over it, and then they cut out the circle so that you can put a bulb and a finishing cap, a finishing trim onto that recessed light. Well, our original lights were just a simple metal white trim that had the wiring connection for the bulb socket coming down. You snap it into the back of that trim, you screw your bulb in, and you use these couple of little prongs, metal prongs, to kind of squeeze and latch, and then you push it up and it stays up there in the ceiling. Well, when I did the gym to home theater conversion, I didn't want white recessed light caps. I was trying to black out the room as much as possible. And one of the other things that I thought would be a good idea is the concept of having my recessed lights on a gimbal, so that instead of having them always just basically direct their light straight down, I could shift and direct the light so the lights that are up front in the room could shine back towards away from the screen. The ones above the couch could shine a little bit more directly onto the seating positions. So I bought a bunch of these guys. So we're looking here at a black metal recessed light trim. Held inside there is a Philips LED dimmable bulb. There's those wire prongs that I was talking about. So to get this to mount, you just squeeze in there, you put it up into the tabs, you let it go, and it's tensioned, and then you push it up into the ceiling. And as I was talking about, this thing has some play in it. We can move it, we can direct the light kind of where we want it to go. The problem with this is that this made for a light assembly that's very loose. So this gimbal piece, and particularly the way the bulb sits held in there, isn't locked down by any good measure. So what do you think happens when you have subwoofers, 2 or now 4, including some big boy Arundels and 16-inch SVS subwoofers, sending heavy bass notes loudly through the room? Well, this stuff actuates, right? And I can hear these things. I can hear these things clinking in the ceiling from my seating position when the most impactful bass of a movie or piece of content is happening. And man, that just sucks. It takes me right out. It makes me focus back on those lighting fixtures instead of focusing on listening to the content and enjoying the movie. So this was a very ill-advised purchase overall. Thankfully, these weren't very expensive. A recessed light trim kit like this is maybe on the order of $10 or $15. This isn't going to work, especially now that I'm pushing more subwoofer power, more subwoofers in the room. So I needed to find a replacement. So I decided in my first shopping to say, well, instead of buying a trim kit that has a separate bulb piece and whatnot, maybe I want just a single assembly, one single solid type of light plus trim kit, LED based of course, and dimmable, that would go up into that socket space in place of what I have. So I mentioned these on a previous live stream. I found these on Amazon, Satco LED, 9-watt LED, 65-watt equivalent, and they come as a single assembly, nice and sealed up. Another kind of, I think, bad element of these other trims is they're not closed up, so sound is kind of getting through the openings. There's some air gaps and stuff like that. This is one single unit. It's still metal, still has the nice foam backing for connecting to the ceiling. It has the same clip-in assembly that would allow me to mount it, and given it's an LED, you need something to transform high voltage to low voltage, and the transformer for the light is in there. It even has a selectable switch that you can go from 2700K to 5000K, warmer to brighter, bluer light. So for a theater, you probably want to dial that down all the way to the warmest light setting. So it does have this little pigtail piece, because again, you have to go from high voltage. In a retrofit like this, you have a bulb socket connection. You have to go from high voltage to low voltage with the transformer. So these go together in there, and this would just screw in to that bulb assembly that's already held up in the ceiling there. So I thought this was going to be perfect, amazing, and do everything that I needed to do. But I didn't account for something as well. I screwed this one up also. And what I didn't account for is look how long this wire is, okay? And not only that, but in my recessed light trims, because of the way the caps were originally done, the screw-in socket for the bulb it's not in the light kit. It's hanging down on wires that are in there. That existing wiring piece already hangs down so far that it comes down past like the opening essentially of the trim kit, because it's there to give you space to be able to screw in or clip in to the trim piece that would go in there and then put the bulb in after. So if you take this length of wire and this piece in conjunction with the length of wire and the other mating piece for this tip, that's a lot of just junk that needs to get pushed up into the recessed light assembly. And so not only was I having a really hard time trying to get that stuff in there, but you're talking about pushing something in to a very confined space. And then you push this up, you can't really get your hand in there. You can't situate it. And so this long wiring and these bits and pieces were kind of getting stuck and turning into a problem. But when I finally did get the first light up there and assembled and ready to go, this stuff is just loosely in there. So again, what do you think happens with a lot of base power? Well, I've got all this wire and all these things kind of just sitting, rumbling and shaking and rattling. So this failed. This really didn't work the way that I wanted it to because of that specific mounting connection logistic. So now I'm into my next option, hopefully my last option, which was to go back to the idea of just a generic type of trim kit. This one actually has the clip like my old ones used to. Don't tell my wife, I'm basically buying the same thing that we had originally after buying something now that I'm replacing, but only to change the color, to go from white to black. So this is a pretty inefficient spend, all things considered, but these really aren't very expensive. We're talking $50 on Amazon for a 6-pack of these. Of course, I had to buy 2 6-packs. I only need 9 of them, but I had to buy 12. So $100 in order to stop the rattling and get the proper lighting in the room. It's really not a bad spend in any way. But what this will allow me to do is clip the existing light socket wiring piece right into the back here. That's specifically what it's built for. I'll take this same bulb out of the existing fixture so I don't have to go buy new bulbs, and I'll be able to screw that light right in to that assembly. We're back now to having kind of one solid piece. It has the nice foam backing when we push it up against the ceiling. It has the same high tension wire clips to get it installed there. There's not going to be a mess of things up here rattling. They even put foam on the back right here, so when you put that light bulb socket assembly in there, it's going to clip down. It's going to clip down hard. It's going to be held down against the foam. There'll only be a little bit of wire up there that'll kind of sit on the side. That really shouldn't rattle. There's no air gaps. Everything will be nice and sealed up. So I should have just bought these 4 years ago when I went to this assembly, but as I've added more base power, I've been able to kind of uncover the limitations and the issues with those other trim kits. The original 15-inch or so rails that I had, just the 2 of them, didn't really hit the power to be able to show the problems of these trims, but getting up to the Arundels and now of course adding the SVSs, and I'm only going to be keeping 4 subwoofers and potentially, who knows, even larger subs going forward in the future. So buttoning the room down and getting everything nice and ready to control and contain that base power is going to be an important part of the theater going forward. So let's go put one of these in and take a look at how it goes. All right, so there's kind of just really a couple steps to this. Again, here's the wiring socket where the light bulb screws into, and that's just wired in to the high voltage in-wall wiring, electrical wiring for the house. We're going to basically clip that right to the top of this trim kit. And there we are with that. Just basically, again, squeeze those tabs, stick it together, and push it right into the hole. That's nice and stable in there. Now I'm going to squeeze these tabs on the side, and there you can kind of see the other end that we're going to stick these tension tabs into. All right, there we go. That's seated in there, and I do recommend some kind of headlamp when you're doing stuff like this. Being able to see up there is pretty tough. So now we should be able to just push this assembly right up there, nice and flush. It has the foam backing, and then we'll screw that bulb right into that socket. And there we are. Got the bulb seated. It's floating right in the middle there. It has a little bit of play. It has to move a lot in order to hit, but base power isn't going to do that. So we're good. We're good to go here. Need to do all the rest of them. As I mentioned, there's 9 lights in the room, 3 on the other side of those ceiling panels. We can see the 3 there, 1 above the projector, and then 1 over there. And there we are, all the trims in. These are much nicer. These will work so much better. And I don't think there's much of a chance at all of these rattling, making noise. I am going to choose to leave all the lights enabled now. And I'm just going to go for some dimmer settings. I find a lot of the time I could use some more working light in here. So I'm going to leave all the bulbs fully screwed in and available. Make it more cozy to kind of just sit in here, do stuff with the lights on, streaming and whatnot. And I can always dim to the right amount. We'll see how much it impacts the screen when the lights are on and we're just navigating menus and stuff like that as well. But yeah, should have just done this. Should have just done this day one. Try to be cute. Try to do swivel adjustable directional lights. Failure mode. All right, so for reference, these were from Amazon again, 50 bucks thereabouts for a 6-pack. Torch Star 6-inch recessed can light trim for par 30, A19. There you go. I will have some Amazon links down in the description. If you're searching for some recessed light trims for your rooms, for your home theater, I'll put a link to these Torch Stars, and I'll go ahead and put a link to these as well, these Satcos. I just want to say clearly as well, like these lights looked really nice. I actually did have the one set up. I did have it set up and shining, and I think this is a really great piece of kit and a good value for the price. It just didn't work for me because of the length of the cabling there. The other thing that I definitely noticed as I was taking these down is not all of these are created equal in terms of either how much play rattle there was in the gimbal versus some of them just not being very good spring tension and whatnot to hold the light in. So some of them I think the gimbals were rattling. Some of them I think actually the light itself was rattling in the fixture there. But in any case, my lighting situation is now hopefully solved until some years down the road where we strip that room to the studs and kind of redo the whole theater pro style from scratch. Sound off in the comments. Let me know what kind of goofy decisions did you make in your theater that you reversed. Have you done anything with regards to lighting and recessed lighting in particular that you found was good and effective for your space? Share in the comments, share your stories. Everybody can learn from the shared experience there. Otherwise, of course, if you'd like to support the channel, use those Amazon links, shop at Audio Advice, or any of my other affiliates. Leave a super thanks if this video helped you, or a PayPal or a Venmo tip. I appreciate it. Otherwise, please do all that regular YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, share the video, leave the comments, all of those things, and come on back for more home theater discussion and fun.